Welcome to my internship portfolio presentation. This was done for the Educational Technology Master's Program with Loyola University. As you can see from my table of contents, I will include all of the information that I had to do for preparing for this internship portfolio, which included staff interviews as well as staff surveys, and how those things actually directed my decisions that I made for this portfolio. I will also include my technology integration plan that included the gaining the administrative support, my professional development action plan, as well as all the work that we did through the technology committee. This portfolio presentation also includes lessons learned from implementing this plan, as well as feedback and reflections, and my course reflections as well. My name is Claudette Clarke, and I'm a National Board Certified Teacher with Prince George's County Public Schools. I've taught in the middle schools for 19 years, and I'm currently at Dwight D. Eisner Middle School in Laurel, Maryland, and I am a wife and mother. And I'm also the department chair at Dwight D. Eisner Middle School and the coordinator for and also many other things. The rationale for the technology integration portfolio began with some staff interviews. One of the courses that we took included our actually getting some feedback from staff members about how technology is integrated within our schools. And based on this feedback, as you can see, I had quite a bit of feedback. I interviewed several staff members, and you can see that these staff members believe that technology can help to bridge the gap for students, and that it can create innovative education. Technologies, some staff members felt that we lacked the resources, some of the resources, or at least accessibility to some of the resources in order to properly integrate technology into our classrooms. Some staff members felt as if the technology integration would actually help us save time, as well as to help differentiate our instructions. It was clear in speaking with my colleagues that they believe that the technology needed to be taught, and felt that if it were taught, it would make it certainly more fun because you pretty much know what you're doing in a better way. And also part of the feedback was that many staff members felt there just wasn't enough time to implement some of the things that we learned through many PDs over the years, and that some of the resources are just not available early enough for students to be able to fully utilize them, and for teachers to fully integrate the technology so that student achievement can be increased. So in speaking with my colleagues, the conclusions that I came to were, and also in looking at research through another course into how effective technology could be in the classroom, what I concluded was that effective technology integration in the classroom will improve student achievement, but of course it has to be done in the right way. Also, our school had received a number of technology devices that can be used effectively to integrate technology, but we were just simply not using those devices correctly or effectively, and also accessibility to those devices created a huge barrier for us. The staff survey revealed that the need for technology integration professional development plan as well. And of course, the staff actually identified several technology resources that they would like to learn. Some of the questions that were in the survey that I sent to staff, and it was a Google Forms survey that I used, is what were their role within the school, what is their preferred technology device, and what I found was that most of the reading language arts teachers and the science teachers prefer the Chromebooks because many of the things that they needed to do was just very difficult on the iPads. Math teachers preferred, actually math teachers could go with either one, but many said the iPads because many of the apps on the iPad were math related. What is the curriculum related reasons for students using the devices? Because I wanted to make sure that the reason why the teachers wanted the devices was actually to improve instructions. What technology resources would you like to see your students use or be exposed to? This gave teachers a reason to kind of dig a little bit deep to see what is out there, what is available, and what is it that they know and do not know. And then, of course, through the technology plan, we would try to fill in the gaps and meet some of the needs. Which technology resources do you feel comfortable teaching to colleagues? Many of my colleagues in my building are experts in some of these technology resources. So I felt that it would be prudent for me to pull them in as trainers as well. And then also, would you like to join the technology committee? Of course, part of the function of this portfolio internship was to actually form a technology committee. So this was just an early way of my getting some feedback into whether or not there are staff members there who would like to help with this function. Some of the results of the technology integration staff survey, I got very good response rate. Most of the content areas actually participated. As you can see, we had results from the AVID teacher, several math teachers, several science teachers, social studies teachers, even teachers or staff members who were not in the classroom, and then some just did not want to identify what their subject areas were. The preferred devices from most teachers were the Chromebooks, even though the iPads were right, in second place. Many did not feel like they wanted to use the desktops, and I think it was just simply because there were less of them in the classroom, and that created more of a challenge. Some of the technology resources that were identified were Edmodo, ClassDojo, 10Mark, Smartboard, Evernote, Mobius Math, Edpuzzle, Gmail, Google Mail, the online textbook resources as well. So after I collected all of the survey information and analyzed all of that, then I actually came up with 4 goals for my technology integration plan. The first goal was around academic achievement and building tolerance for technology, testing through technology. The second goal was through ongoing professional development, being able to actually provide that for educators so that they would be able to use and integrate the technology effectively. My third goal was in accessibility, because that was a major problem in our building. Teachers just did not know how to access the technology that was already available. And then, of course, my last goal was to make sure that this plan resulted in something that was sustainable and that built accountability, so that not only the devices are protected, but also so that the process of being able to integrate the technology into our lessons was also protected. Now, the technology integration action plan included participation, the participants actually assisting in planning, implementing, and evaluating the PD, administrative support, as well as adhering to the principles of adult learning to ensure that I was fully engaging staff members into the learning process. And then following up and supporting the transfer of knowledge to ensure that the teachers felt that they could use the PD. Many times, as I said before, we attend PD, but then we do not implement it. So I wanted to make sure that teachers felt that they could implement it right away, immediately. Okay, the first thing I'd like to address is the planning and implementing and evaluating PD. As you can see from the technology integration survey, I did 2 surveys, one in the beginning when I collected information from staff members as to what they would like to see happen with the technology integration. And then the second survey was a follow-up towards the end. How did it go? How accessible were the devices? And then, several other questions. We implemented the professional development plan and got feedback. And some of the feedback included a plan, as you can see, as to when the teachers would use the actual knowledge that they had gained. And what I did with this information was I made sure that I stopped by to observe and to support, to ensure that teachers, felt as if integrating the technology into their classroom was a smooth transition and was somewhat seamless. And this seemed to work out really nicely because teachers continue to use some of those resources throughout the remainder of the year. Teachers also got to choose what the next technology professional development would be based on what they felt they needed. So they actually were able to vote and tell me what they wanted, and then based on that, I was able to set up the next plan. The second thing that was very important to me in this technology integration plan was to ensure that I did get administrative support. So I did meet with my principal, I did get approval for the plan, and I did brainstorm with him, and he read through the plan and gave me some changes, some input. And throughout this entire process, throughout the entire year of integrating the technology and doing the PDs and doing the surveys, he has been very responsive and very supportive. He has been supportive in the form of providing resources. When we did the Smartboard training, it was clear to him that many of the Smartboards did not have a long enough cord to make it more user-friendly for teachers, as well as they did not have the pins. Some pins were missing. So he actually allowed me to buy several sets so that over 20 teachers who participated in the training and who wanted to use the devices were able to have all the equipment that they needed. So that was absolutely great. Also, he did give me time during the school day to provide training for for the teachers. So there were several of the professional development sessions that happened during the day. And the training after school, while he did initially say that he would provide funds, some of them he did not. So but that was understandable. He just didn't have as much money in the budget as he thought he would have. But in during this past summer, he did include it in the annual summer leadership retreat. So the technology integration is now a full part of the school program and is fully aligned with student achievement goals for the school. Another important factor in the technology implementation plan is to ensure that the PD sessions were teacher friendly, that they were not just sessions where either I or my colleagues would stand and just present information and teachers would just kind of glaze over and not fully comprehend or fully be engaged in the actual learning process. So much of I use the model that one of the professors in one of the courses had taught us, which was to ensure that there was some pre-work so that the teachers came in mentally prepared and physically prepared with what needed to be included in the sessions. And of course, there was the during work, and the during work included much collaborations among the teachers. In fact, many of the times, the teachers actually would be grouped by content area so that they would be able to plan and plan how to implement and what lessons would be useful for them implementing the technology within their classroom. And then, of course, there was the after work. And sometimes the after work was, what date are you planning to teach this particular lesson that you had planned out during the session? And then, of course, my following up to check in and see how everything went. And then to provide some follow-up training with the one of the training, the Smartboard training. I realized that the first training that we did was enough to get people started, but then some people really took off and needed some additional, more in-depth training. So I was able to schedule a second Smartboard training. So that worked out really nicely. The transfer of the training knowledge to the classroom was also very, very big. And, I actually tried to use the technology as part of the presentation tool. For example, when I did the Edpuzzle presentation, I actually had the teachers set up an account as if they were students, and the presentation was done through Edpuzzle. Using Edpuzzle as the medium for presentation, as opposed to using something like PowerPoint or Google Slides. I also did the same thing with the Smartboard presentation as well. That worked out really nicely. Okay. And I also solicited trainers, my colleagues as trainers, because there were some colleagues within the building who were experts. There was another math teacher who did the Smartboard part two training. I did the part one and she did the part two. And then we did some online, textbook online training as well. And I had the science department chair and the reading language arts department chair do that. Technology teacher actually do the Google training. So there were, so it was a whole school effort. And I believe that teachers were able to participate and found the information very relevant. A few other additional artifacts. I did already talk about teachers getting having the ability or the opportunity to choose the next the next PD that they wanted. And then I also spoke about being able to implement the technology into their classrooms. This was part of the Smart Board training, where teachers actually came together in their content area groups and found lessons that applied directly to the unit that they were currently on. And then the teachers who I recruited as presenters actually received credit towards recertification. The only thing I had to do was prepare the letter and have my principal sign the letters, and then we sent them on to our certification office so that they were able to get credit for that experience. Now, the technology committee that we formed, I am very pleased about, because on the committee we have represented several disciplines, and as well as several grade levels. So there were members from the 6th grade team, 7th grade team, as well as the 8th grade team. So it was a very comprehensive group, and I'm hoping that this year's group will also be the same. Many of those who served on the committee last year said that they would continue again this year. The summer of 2015, I identified a list of technology for each of the disciplines, so the department chairs were able to tell me specifically what technology they would like to see utilized in their departments, as well as the teachers themselves also told me that before on a survey. Also in the summer, we discussed and determined which technology devices would be most appropriate for each discipline based on the results of the survey. In the fall of 2015 was when we began all of the professional developments, and then by Q3 I was completely done, because Q4 was so filled with testing that it was just almost impossible to actually, conduct any professional developments during the latter part of Q3 and the parts of Q4. And the final survey was done later in the year, just to get a pulse check and see whether teachers felt that the technology integration plan was successful and whether it met their needs, and then to look forward and see what else needs to be done for the upcoming year. So I was able to use that feedback to make decisions about what should be done for this coming school year. And also, because the technology committee is now so strong, it is now a self-sustaining group and a self-sustaining function within the school, unlike what it was before. Lessons learned from the implementation. There were some mostly positives, very few negatives. Positives were that teachers were very receptive to the training, and they participated well in the training. The teachers who hosted the devices really, I think, appreciated having the devices and having them so accessible, so much so that there were a few problems on a negative side with the sharing of the devices, because some teachers were just not sharing very well. Additionally, on the negative side, there were some teachers who were just not as careful with the devices, so as a result some were misplaced, and then some were damaged. Not very many, but we would like to minimize that as much as possible. And of course, another negative that I mentioned before was the testing schedule interfered with some of the PDs. The post-implementation internship feedback and reflections. As you can see, the classroom, it was puzzling that teachers felt as if the enough of the devices were, the desktops were not available to them. And a big part of this was just simply because our IT person was so swamped and did not get a chance to repair many of the devices. the next PD desired, as you can see, teachers were participated very well in that survey and expressed their opinion as to what they wanted to do next. And the most preferred time was, of course, during the school day. Many teachers did not want to stay behind. So we are trying to work that out into this school year. And the accessibility of the mobile devices, most teachers felt as if the devices were accessible to them, but some chose not to access them, which also was a problem and is something that we're going to deal with this coming school year. Of course, most of the teachers said that the sign out process, or the host teachers, it was very apparent how to actually get devices. It's just that many of them did not go through the trouble of doing so. My course reflections, many of the courses that I took were extremely useful, and I was able to apply much of what I learned into my own lessons, as well as to share with colleagues as well. I am very thankful to all of the staff at Loyola University who were extremely instrumental in advising me and being flexible and allowing me to complete this degree program. I also thank my classmates who were very, 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 very supportive throughout the entire program. And of course, my principal and vice principal over the technology, as well as my family and friends, and the excellent staff at Dwight D. Eisenhower Middle School who took part in the implementation plan and who were very, very supportive.